Confidence is one of the most misunderstood forces in human behavior. Most people believe it means speaking loudly, showing certainty, and proving strength in every room they enter. But the truth Machiavelli observed was far colder than that. The most dangerous form of confidence rarely announces itself. It appears through composure when others react, through silence when others explain, through detachment when others chase approval. And that quiet control changes the entire balance of power around a man. In this video, you'll discover the darker side of real confidence, the psychological traits that make certain individuals impossible to intimidate, manipulate, or socially dominate. Why most confident people are just performing. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood signals in human behavior. Most people believe confidence is loud. They imagine it as charisma, bold speech, quick answers, constant presence. The man who talks easily, dominates conversations, and never appears uncertain is labeled confident almost automatically. But Machiavelli would have seen something different. What most people call confidence is usually performance. It is a social mask designed to control perception. People exaggerate certainty because uncertainty lowers status. They project strength because appearing unsure invites challenge. The result is a culture where confidence is often theatrical rather than structural. This is where the real danger begins. A man who is performing confidence is dependent on the audience. His tone, posture, and behavior adjust constantly based on how others react. Approval fuels him. Disapproval destabilizes him. His identity becomes tied to maintaining the image he created. That is not confidence. That is reputation management. And reputation management is fragile. Machiavelli understood that power never depends on appearance alone. Real authority comes from control over reaction, timing, and information. A man who needs to prove his confidence is already negotiating with the room. The truly confident man operates differently. He does not rush to fill silence. He does not over-explain his intentions. He does not display certainty for applause. His behavior is not designed to impress observers, but to maintain strategic position. This difference is subtle but decisive. The performer seeks validation through visibility. The strategist seeks leverage through restraint. One burns energy sustaining an image. The other conserves energy shaping outcomes. Because of this, real confidence often appears colder than people expect. It is quieter, more selective, less emotional. It allows ambiguity instead of constantly clarifying itself. And that quiet control creates an unusual psychological effect. People cannot easily measure it. When someone cannot measure you, they hesitate. When they hesitate, your influence increases. Not because you forced it, but because your stability makes others uncertain. That is the dark side of true confidence. It removes the need to prove anything. And the man who no longer needs approval stops performing entirely. He becomes difficult to read, difficult to provoke, and increasingly difficult to challenge. Not because he demanded power, because he stopped chasing attention. Why calm men quietly control the room. Tension reveals more about people than comfort ever will. The moment pressure enters a room, reactions begin leaking everywhere. Voices sharpen, postures tighten. Conversations accelerate as people try to regain control of the situation. In those moments, emotion becomes visible long before strategy appears. This is where composure becomes dangerous. A calm man inside chaos creates a psychological imbalance that most people cannot explain but immediately feel. While others react instinctively, he remains still enough to observe what the pressure is exposing. And pressure exposes everything. It shows who feels threatened. It shows who needs approval. It shows who cannot tolerate uncertainty. Machiavelli believed that control rarely comes from dominating a room. It comes from understanding the reactions inside it. The individual who stays composed during conflict gathers information while everyone else is broadcasting it. That information becomes leverage. When a man refuses to react immediately, people start adjusting their behavior around him. Silence becomes heavier. Every word he eventually chooses carries more weight, because it arrives after observation rather than impulse. This is why composure often feels intimidating. It removes predictability. Anger can be anticipated. Defensiveness can be manipulated. Excitement can be redirected. But calm restraint leaves others unsure how to proceed. Without visible reactions to measure, people hesitate. And hesitation shifts influence toward the person who appears least affected by the tension. A composed man also changes the pace of interaction. Arguments usually escalate through rapid emotional exchanges. One reaction triggers another, until the situation becomes louder than it is rational. The person who refuses that rhythm interrupts the escalation without raising his voice. He slows the entire environment down. This control of pace creates authority without direct confrontation. The calm individual does not need to dominate conversation, because the room naturally begins orienting around his stability. Machiavelli understood that rulers who lost emotional control lost strategic control soon after. Visible agitation invites challenge. Emotional reactions reveal weaknesses. Composure prevents both. A man who remains calm while others become reactive sends a silent signal that pressure does not move him easily. And in environments where everyone is competing for control, the person who cannot be emotionally shaken often becomes the one who quietly holds it. If you understand this principle, write control in the comments, and subscribe if you want to master the darker side of power and human psychology. Confidence without approval, the moment you stop needing anyone. Most people believe confidence grows from encouragement, praise, support, recognition. The idea is simple. When others believe in you, your confidence increases. But Machiavelli observed something far darker about human psychology. Confidence built on approval is fragile. Because the moment approval disappears, so does the confidence that depended on it. This is the trap most people never notice. They think they are becoming stronger, but what they are actually doing is outsourcing their self-worth to the opinions of others. They adjust their behavior to avoid criticism. They soften their actions to remain liked. They shape their decisions around how people might react. And slowly, without realizing it, they stop acting freely. Approval becomes the invisible leash. A man who needs validation can always be influenced. Compliment him, and he becomes cooperative. Withdraw support, and he begins doubting himself. Criticize him publicly, and he rushes to repair his reputation. His emotions are now externally controlled. Machiavelli understood this dynamic long before modern psychology explained it. The man who depends on approval will always compromise power to maintain it. True confidence begins at the exact moment that dependence disappears. Not arrogance, not isolation, independence. The man who no longer needs constant agreement becomes psychologically stable in a way most people are not. He can make unpopular decisions. He can tolerate misunderstanding. He can move forward even when the room disagrees with him. This stability creates a subtle shift in social dynamics. When someone stops seeking approval, people begin seeking his. Because independence signals something rare: internal authority. Most individuals subconsciously follow those who appear self-directed. A person who moves without constantly checking reactions appears more certain about his direction, and certainty attracts attention. This does not mean rejecting every opinion or ignoring useful feedback. It means removing the emotional dependency on acceptance. A confident man listens, but he does not negotiate his identity. He considers perspectives without needing agreement to proceed, and that freedom changes how others perceive him. The moment a man stops needing approval, he becomes difficult to pressure, difficult to manipulate, and increasingly difficult to control. And in power dynamics, the man who cannot be controlled quietly becomes the one shaping the outcome. The power of emotional coldness. Emotion is one of the fastest ways power changes hands. Not because emotion itself is weak, but because visible emotion reveals leverage. The moment a reaction becomes obvious, other people begin understanding exactly where influence can be applied. Anger shows what provokes you. Excitement shows what attracts you. Fear shows what can pressure you. Once those signals are visible, control becomes easier to manipulate. Machiavelli observed this pattern repeatedly in politics and leadership. Rulers who reacted emotionally gave their opponents a map. Every visible frustration, every defensive reaction, every moment of public anger provided information about how to destabilize them. That is why emotional detachment creates authority. A man who remains controlled while others react emotionally becomes difficult to read. His responses are slower, more deliberate, and less predictable. Instead of revealing his state instantly, he absorbs the moment and decides how to respond. That pause changes the dynamic. Most conflicts escalate through emotional rhythm. One reaction triggers another, and the interaction accelerates until strategy disappears and instinct takes over. The person who refuses that rhythm interrupts the entire process. Silence replaces escalation. When someone does not react the way people expect, uncertainty spreads through the interaction. Others begin questioning their approach. Should they push harder? Should they slow down? Should they change tactics? The lack of emotional signals removes clarity. And clarity is exactly what manipulation depends on. Detachment does not mean feeling nothing. It means refusing to broadcast what you feel. A composed man can experience anger, disappointment, or frustration internally, while his external behavior remains measured. That separation between feeling and reaction creates psychological distance from the situation. Distance creates perspective. Perspective allows better decisions. Machiavelli believed authority is strengthened when others cannot easily predict how you will respond under pressure. If every reaction is visible, your strategy becomes transparent. If your reactions remain controlled, your intentions stay hidden. That hidden space is where real influence grows. The man who masters emotional detachment gains something rare in competitive environments: the ability to observe clearly while everyone else is reacting. And the person who sees clearly usually ends up controlling the outcome. How not caring becomes psychological dominance. Attention is one of the most valuable currencies in human interaction. Where attention goes, influence usually follows. People watch the person who seems most important, most reactive, most involved in the situation. But there is another way power quietly shifts inside a room: through indifference. Not careless indifference, strategic indifference. Machiavelli understood that the individual who appears least dependent on an outcome often holds the strongest position in the interaction. The moment someone looks emotionally invested, the balance begins tilting away from them. Investment reveals priority. If a man rushes to respond to every comment, every message, every criticism, he unintentionally shows that the situation matters to him. That urgency becomes visible. And once urgency becomes visible, influence over him becomes easier. Strategic indifference removes that urgency. A man practicing it does not chase every reaction. He does not attempt to win every argument. He does not react instantly to every challenge placed in front of him. Instead, he becomes selective. Responses arrive when they are useful, not when they are demanded. Attention is given carefully rather than automatically. Silence is allowed to exist without feeling the need to fill it. This selectiveness changes perception. When someone is not easily pulled into every interaction, people begin adjusting their behavior to gain his attention. Conversations become more cautious. Words are chosen more carefully, because attention now has value. Indifference creates psychological gravity. People naturally move toward what seems less available. The person who appears overly eager becomes predictable and easy to manage. The person who remains slightly detached creates curiosity and tension. Machiavelli valued this type of positioning because influence rarely comes from visible effort. Effort can look desperate. Distance, when controlled correctly, looks powerful. Strategic indifference does not mean ignoring everything. It means refusing to react automatically. When others attempt to provoke a reaction and receive none, the pressure quietly returns to them. They begin questioning their own position. wondering whether they misread the situation. And that shift is subtle but decisive, because the individual who controls his attention controls where the psychological center of the interaction moves. And once that center moves toward him, dominance rarely needs to be announced. The silent intimidation effect. Intimidation rarely begins with aggression. People often imagine intimidation as loud voices, threats, or visible dominance. But the most unsettling form of intimidation is much quieter. It appears through presence rather than pressure. A man who is internally stable creates tension without trying to. This happens because most social environments run on subtle emotional exchange. People constantly signal approval, disagreement, curiosity, or insecurity through tone, posture, and expression. These signals help others understand where they stand. But when someone removes those signals, the entire interaction becomes harder to read. Machiavelli observed that unpredictability creates psychological discomfort. When reactions become difficult to anticipate, others start approaching the situation more cautiously. Confidence that does not seek validation produces this exact effect. The man who does not rush to impress anyone, who does not compete for attention, and who remains steady regardless of who enters the room, changes the emotional temperature around him. Others begin measuring themselves against him. They watch how he responds. They watch what he notices. They watch whether their words move him. And when nothing obvious happens, uneasiness begins forming. Because the absence of visible reaction creates a question, what is he thinking? People are accustomed to reading social signals quickly. A smile indicates friendliness. A defensive tone indicates insecurity. A loud response indicates frustration. But controlled confidence interrupts this pattern. When someone speaks calmly, reacts selectively, and shows no urgency to prove himself, the normal signals disappear. Without those signals, others struggle to categorize him. That uncertainty slowly turns into intimidation, not because he demanded it, but because his stability forces others to reconsider their own behavior. The calmest person during uncertainty often becomes the reference point everyone else unconsciously follows. Machiavelli believed authority grows strongest when it does not constantly explain itself. When a man appears comfortable without approval, arguments, or recognition, he communicates something powerful. He is not negotiating his position in the room. He already knows where he stands. And that certainty, expressed quietly rather than loudly, often unsettles people more than open dominance ever could. Why confident men attract envy and resistance. Confidence does not always produce admiration. Sometimes it produces resistance. In theory, people claim to respect strong individuals. They talk about leadership, decisiveness, and independence as admirable traits. But in real social environments, visible confidence often triggers a different reaction. Comparison. The moment a man carries himself with certainty, others begin measuring themselves against him. His stability becomes a mirror, reflecting their hesitation, compromises, and insecurities. And mirrors make people uncomfortable. This is why genuine confidence can provoke tension even when no conflict exists. A man who moves without seeking approval unintentionally disrupts the emotional balance of the group. His independence exposes how dependent many others still are on reassurance and agreement. Machiavelli understood this dynamic clearly. Power rarely exists in isolation. It reshapes the hierarchy around it. When one individual begins acting with certainty, others must either elevate themselves or challenge him. Many choose the second option. Resistance rarely begins openly. It appears in quieter ways. Humor becomes slightly sharper. Doubt enters conversations. Decisions are questioned not because they are wrong, but because reducing the confident man's influence restores comfort. Envy often hides behind criticism. The goal is not always to destroy the confident individual. More often, it is to pull him back into familiar territory, where the hierarchy feels balanced again. This backlash surprises many people. They assume confidence will automatically create acceptance. Instead, it frequently creates friction. The stronger someone's internal direction becomes, the more it exposes the lack of direction in others. And exposure invites reaction. Machiavelli believed a leader must recognize this early. Seeking universal approval while gaining influence is impossible. The more stable and independent a man becomes, the more resistance he will encounter. Understanding this prevents a common mistake. Confidence does not require eliminating opposition. It requires recognizing that some resistance is simply the natural response to power beginning to shift. When confidence becomes untouchable power, at a certain point, confidence stops looking like confidence. It becomes something else, something harder to influence. Most people operate inside what psychologists call a social frame. Their reactions, decisions, and tone constantly adjust to the emotional signals around them. Approval raises their energy, disapproval lowers it. Pressure changes their behavior. The environment quietly shapes them, but an unshakable frame works in the opposite direction. Instead of adapting to every signal in the room, the man with a strong internal frame maintains his psychological position, regardless of who enters the conversation or what tension appears. Machiavelli understood the importance of this stability. Leaders who constantly reacted to criticism, flattery, or public pressure slowly lost control of their authority. Their decisions became unpredictable because they were responding to emotion rather than strategy. An unshakable frame removes that vulnerability. It means a man's direction does not collapse when someone questions him. His tone does not change because another person attempts to dominate the conversation. His priorities remain clear even when the environment becomes uncomfortable. This stability produces a powerful effect. People begin adjusting to him instead. When someone refuses to shift under pressure, others start recalibrating their approach. Voices soften, arguments lose intensity, conversations become more cautious. Not because he forced control, because his position appears immovable. Machiavelli often described power as the ability to shape perception without constant confrontation. The person who appears internally anchored communicates something stronger than aggression ever could. He cannot be easily pushed. And when people realize pushing does not work, they begin looking for another strategy. That moment is when confidence turns into authority. An unshakable frame does not require loud declarations or visible dominance. It operates through consistency. The man remains steady when others expect reaction, focused when others try to distract him, and composed when others try to provoke him. Over time, this stability becomes difficult to challenge, because the person who cannot be emotionally shaken becomes increasingly difficult to control, and the individual who cannot be controlled eventually becomes the one everyone else must navigate around. True confidence was never about noise. It was never about proving yourself in every room, winning every argument, or making sure people see you as strong. Real confidence operates in a much colder way. It appears through composure, emotional control, and the ability to move without needing constant approval. What you saw in this video were the darker mechanics behind confidence. The kind that doesn't perform, doesn't chase validation, and doesn't collapse under pressure. The kind Machiavelli studied when he observed how power actually moves between people. When a man stops reacting impulsively, stops explaining himself to everyone, and stops depending on approval, something shifts. His presence becomes harder to challenge and even harder to manipulate. And that is where true authority begins. If you made it this far, comment control below so I know you watched the entire video and understood the message. If this perspective helped you see power and human behavior differently, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel for more content on Machiavellian strategy, dark psychology, and the hidden dynamics of influence. Because once you start seeing these patterns clearly, you stop playing the game blindly, and that's when the real advantage begins.